2022. Senate Tax Committee is in order. Members, we have 4 bills today, and they will all be laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus bill. Before we start, I want to mention just a few property tax bills, and I'm going to ask Senator Weber. He'll take a look at these in his subcommittee on property taxes. One would be Senate File 4138, that's increasing county program aid. Senate File 4158, extending property tax exemption for certain property owned by Indian tribes. Senate File 4227, adjusting the LGA calculation and county program aid in 2023. And finally, Senator Weber, Senate File 1476, Class 1C property provision modification. So we'll look forward to having you delve deeper into those bills. Senator Ruud, welcome to the committee. Today, we will be hearing your bill, Senate File 1531. And it's good to see people in person here today. That's always an added plus in the tax committee. Senator Ruud.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's wonderful that I have a commissioner from my own county that drove a hard drive this morning, and I'm really thankful that Commissioner Barrows is here with me today.
Commissioner, that was quite a drive this morning. You left in the middle of the night.
It was.
Thank you for making that happen. Before we start, Senator Coleman will move Senator Ruud's bill, Senate File 1531. And to your bill, Senator Ruud.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, as you know, SCORE grants to counties help fund programs on waste reduction and recycling, but SCORE funds have not kept pace with the pollution prevention that we need. So counties are required to provide a 25% match for SCORE grants, but counties often end up providing between 100 to 400% match or more. Our counties could and should be doing more than they are currently able to do to meet the current state recycling and waste reduction goals. But recycling programs are expensive. And counties are mandated by the state to reduce, reuse, and recycle to manage hazardous waste and divert the waste from the landfills to protect the environment and the public health to meet the state's waste goals. So Senate File 1531, the SCORE Recycling Grant Bill, provides more dollars for recycling to counties to protect our land, water, and air quality and conserve our natural resources and protect Minnesotans from the worst consequences of the solid waste management failures like the undergone plumes that we're seeing from the landfills. So I have several excellent testifiers today, so I'm going to hand it off to them. And I just want to, everybody says, well, what does SCORE actually mean? So it is actually the Select Committee on Recycling and the Environment. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll hand it over to my testifiers.
Oh, thank you, Senator Ruud. Commissioner, welcome to the committee. Thank you for the long drive to be here. And if you'd introduce yourself for the record, please, then continue with your testimony.
I am Steve Barrows, Crow Wing County Commissioner. I want to thank you, Madam Chair, and committee members for the opportunity to testify in support of Senator Ruud's Senate File 1531. My comments today and those of my colleague, Commissioner Ken Brown, are offered on behalf of the Association of Minnesota Counties, Minnesota Intercounty Association, the Solid Waste Administrators Association, and the Partnership on Waste and Energy. And together, we've developed a coalition of support for this effort. I'll start with the origins of the solid waste management tax. We counties make sure that solid waste, or as we all call it, trash, is properly handled, and this is a core function of government. So what began with regulations in cities about the location of a city dump and open burning has evolved into a system that is complex and varied as the material is thrown away. Today, the Waste Management Act reduces risk to public health and the environment by establishing a waste hierarchy directing counties on how waste should be managed. The law also has measures to ensure the safety of people that work with waste and to address risk of landfills. Through 2015, the state of Minnesota has spent over $432 million cleaning up landfills, and the MPCA is now estimating that they'll need another $309 million through 2050. That's dollars that we all pay through taxes and risk insurance, a financial burden that never will go away. In 1988, in the face of mounting trash, litter, and illegal dumping problems, the governor created a task force called the Select Committee on Recycling and the Environment, or SCORE as we call it. The Select Committee recommended a tax based on the cost of trash, resulting in the solid waste management tax to help fund recycling-related programs. This tax applies to all trash services, 9.75% for residential and 17% for businesses. It's a user tax that now generates close to $100 million annually, 30% or approximately $30 million going to the general fund where it isn't used for waste management purposes. Senate File 1531 will help counties recover SCORE funding from the general fund to better protect public health and the environment as originally intended. While this public function is carried out by a network of public and private entities, the state holds only counties responsible for meeting state mandates. Despite this, less than 20% of solid waste management tax revenues are allocated to SCORE grants to fund recycling and reuse programs. Most of the costs of achieving state waste and recycling goals and requirements are paid by local government. For example, in Crow Wing County, in 2019, we had to reduce the number of drop-off sites from 10 to 3 due to the cost. It cost taxpayers of Crow Wing County $3.5 million to build a cell in the landfill. The original life expectancy of a cell was 6 to 7 years. We are now projecting that the life of these cells is 4 to 5 years, reducing it by almost a third. And in 2020, Crow Wing County received $186,000 from the SCORE grant, but we spent $1,043,000. Translation, SCORE grant 18%, Crow Wing County taxpayers 82%. And with that, I'll hand it off to Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Brown, welcome to the committee. I believe you're on Zoom today. We'll get you on the screen, and then I'll have you introduce yourself for the record. Commissioner Brown, are you there? You might be on mute, Commissioner Brown. It happens on a regular basis here.
Yeah, no, I forget that one. Say you're on mute. I haven't used this. I'm really pleased with the trend toward in-person meetings. I'm sorry I'm not there to see my senator, Senator Nelson. But due to conflicts here, I chose to Zoom in instead. So to follow on with Mr. Barrows, esteemed colleague from Crow Wing, we are both here to share our perspectives and support of Senate File 1531. The graph shows you how counties in Minnesota have continually stepped forward to fund programs required by the state, while the state's contribution has essentially remained flat. The slide underestimates the local effort because it doesn't show the additional costs paid by cities for recycling-related services. Counties have had to piece together many other tools to fund recycling and reuse mandates due to inadequate SCORE grant allocations. Some have developed partnerships to pool resources through a solid waste management organization. Counties may use a waste tax assessment, landfill fees, service charges, revenue from material sales, and even property tax revenue to ensure responsible management of waste. Counties are doing our best to make it work, but costs continue to increase and funding falls short of the need. Recycling and reuse programs run by counties have been very successful, but more can and must be done, given the fact that counties are responsible for all the waste that is generated. We are liable for what gets picked up at the end of the driveway. In 2019, Minnesota counties diverted 2.5 million tons of waste to recycling and organics programs. An additional 1.1 million tons of solid waste has been reduced. This reduces environmental impacts as resources are reused, recycled, and kept out of landfills. The worst thing that we have always believed you could do is keep siting and filling up landfills. For example, in Rochester and Olmsted, we've experienced a great deal of growth in population. And of course, along with this growth, we experience increased volumes of solid waste. No surprise. Increased SCORE funding would provide greater opportunities to better manage this waste and improve our local recycling rates, particularly by focusing on organics diversion. So like Mr. Barrows, we received about $470-some thousand from SCORE, but our expense was about 2.1 million, which we then substitute with either property tax, revenues, service fees, and so on. The resources we currently have are simply not adequate to meet the state's goals to reduce, reuse, and recycle, which we agree with those goals wholeheartedly and do everything we can to meet those. We're losing out on opportunities because of our limited resources. Additional SCORE dollars are needed to meet this ever-increasing unmet waste challenges. Passage of this bill to increase SCORE is truly an investment in Minnesota and in Minnesota's environment. We think we do a very credible job with the system that we have across the state that the counties have to achieve the results that are expected, but we need some more resources to do that. The recycling industry employs about 37,000 Minnesotans, has an estimated $15.7 billion economic impact, and we are approaching 6 million tons of trash generated in our state annually. Now's the time to help us move closer to the goals that the state would like to see and require. Counties respectfully request that the legislature pass Senate File 1531 to restore funding for recycling and use solid waste management tax for the ever-increasing solid waste management challenges. Thank you. And now my colleague and I can stand for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Commissioner. For the record, we do have a quorum, members. Clearly, this is a growing problem. Members, any questions or comments? Senator Rust.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senator Ruud. It's been a long time since, I think since we've looked at the SCORE grants and the way in which the dollars from the solid waste tax are distributed, and I'm trying to understand the distribution right now and where and how those dollars are being used. And I understand that the bill is saying is increasing the percentage over a period of years, 2 or 3 years, whatever it is, to put 100% of it in to be available for these grants. And when it went into the general fund, that portion that went in the general fund, was it just available for everything? I'm trying to remember how that worked, or did it have any kind of dedication? It was just kind of like who was in charge of it? And I remember how, I don't think anybody here, maybe except Senator Bach, the establishing this whole program a couple of decades ago ended up being very controversial as we looked at the needs of the counties and who was responsible for doing what. And I'm really pleased to see this bill, but I just wonder if you'd give just a little bit more background about how things are currently being done, and then how your bill will make a difference.
Thank you, Senator Rust. And I was wondering much the same, so we'll just, so the question, my question in addition, and we'll just then turn it over to answer both of these questions, are somewhat tied together. why was the solid waste management tax not solely dedicated to solid waste management? In other words, to the SCORE grants. I don't know, were we in a deficit in 1988? Was this one of the ways to increase revenue to come out of a deficit? I don't know if anyone knows that, but I know you, Senator Ruud, do you have some history on why 100% of the tax was not dedicated to the purpose for which it was created?
Madam Chair
Senator
and Senator Rest, when it was created, there was 100% dedication. But of course, you know that in times of the budget deficit, our first deficit, I believe that I remember, was in 2003. And we took money out of funds. We took money out of the landfill fund. We took money out of the tobacco tax. We've taken a lot of funds because, as you know, the state budget has to be balanced at the end. And so over the years, we've taken funds from different accounts, and unfortunately, in times of surplus, we never seem to pay them back. And so I think this is now time with this, when we have a surplus, that we start looking at the funds that we borrowed from and put some of that money back. We think it's right now that 70%, the 30% just goes to the general fund for whatever the need is. And that wasn't the original intent of this, of the SCORE grant. So we think it's time with the budget surplus that we, look at that. And we've tried to do it in a responsible way, not all in one chunk, but a percentage each year until 2025 when you go back to 100%. So.
Yeah.
Thank you, Senator Ruud.
Thank you.
Welcome to the committee. Introduce yourself for the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Brian Martinson. I'm the Environment and Natural Resources Policy Analyst for the Association of Minnesota Counties. The current distribution is 30% just to the general fund that goes to general purposes. The 70% goes into the environmental fund with the PCA, and that is about 70 million at this time. Of that, there's 18.45 million that is specifically designated in a line item budget for county SCORE grants. The remainder of that money in the environmental fund is used for a variety of purposes at the MPCA, including waste management and landfill support. So that portion is put to good use. The plan with this would have that 30% redirected through the environmental fund, but specifically for the SCORE grant. So those dollars, that returning 30%, would be designated just for the county grants.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Any further comments or questions? Do you have another testifier, Senator Ruud?
I believe that Mr. Carnevale and Madam Chair and Senator
Yes.
Rest, this is a bill that I first started working on with former Senator Scalzi. I sat next to her in Senator Tomassoni's Jobs, Hogs, and Frogs Committee, and so so that's how long we've been talking about SCORE grants.
Thank you. Welcome to the committee. Doug, introduce yourself for the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Doug Carnival, representing the National Waste and Recycling Association, which is an industry association of private sector haulers, recyclers, and waste processors, and I have just 1 minute to support the bill. We appreciate the efforts of Senator Ruud to capture additional solid waste tax revenue that's currently going to the general fund, because our association has long believed, as the statute has stated, that solid waste tax revenue should be used for solid waste tax purposes. We fully support greater diversion of recyclable materials, including organics, from the waste stream. To that end, we have always supported increasing SCORE grants to counties to provide more resources for reducing waste and recycling more materials from the waste stream. We support legislation that fairly and equitably distributes additional solid waste tax revenue to the counties for recycling purposes. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Carnival. Any further comments, members, or questions? Senator Ruud, any closing comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for allowing us a hearing today. I think this is a very important bill for counties and for the state of Minnesota. We know that we need to do a better job with our recycling goals. So I would appreciate your support today.
Thank you, Senator Ruud. The bill will be laid over for possible inclusion.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee.
Members, next on our agenda, Senator Eken, Senate File 2565, National Guard and Reserve Compensation Income Tax Subtraction Modification. Senator Eken, welcome to the Tax Committee.
Thank you.
Senator Chamberlain will move your bill, Senate File 2565. And to your bill, Senator Eken.
Great. Well, thank you, Madam Chair and members. And this bill, it's a very simple bill. It simply allows the subtraction for Minnesota residents who are serving in the National Guard of a neighboring state. This issue was brought to me by a constituent, Casper Colby, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, who's working at this time, but he lives in Moorhead, and he works for the National Guard in Fargo, just across the river, just a couple miles. So, and it was discovered that under current law, compensation that's paid to members of the Minnesota National Guard are able to have their compensation subtracted for the purposes of calculating Minnesota taxable income. But because he's in the North Dakota Guard, he's not able to get that subtraction. And I think it's an issue of fairness. I think it's important to note that the National Guard does have reciprocity or mutual aid agreement. They do work on both sides of the river. And we've seen that happen during times of flooding up in the Red River Valley. They don't just work on the one side of the river, so they do provide services to the people on our side as well. And so I think it's really an oversight, and I do think that National Guard members should be treated the same. They're doing the same work, and they should be treated the same regardless of which side of the river they happen to be living on. So that's one of the reasons that bringing this bill forward. I also think it's important to note that I think this would help to attract more people to the Minnesota side of the river, where they would then pay more taxes here. They would buy their groceries here. They would send their kids to school here. That would all be a real boon for our area. So it's not a significant cost to it. Estimated that there will be an additional 100 residents that would claim the subtraction at this time, and the cost would be for 2003 fiscal year $200,000, and then $100,000 in the next two subsequent years. So, so with that, I'll entertain any questions. I also have Joanna Bayers here with the Department of Revenue that could answer maybe some technical questions.
Thank you, Senator Eken. Senator Rust.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Eken, and maybe represented from the department as well. In these three states, do we have, when their residents work for the Minnesota National Guard, how do their states treat the income that they earn here? Is this something that we're trying to allure people, as you just mentioned, or do they provide a similar subtraction or a deduction somewhere in their income tax system? And I realize that particularly South Dakota, its economy is really based on sales tax and not on income tax. But how does that work in terms of reciprocity, even if there's not a formal agreement? How is that income from the Minnesota National Guard for residents of Wisconsin and the two Dakotas? How is that treated in their states? Do you know?
And,
Senator Eken.
Madam Chair and Senator Rust, that's a very good question, and I don't have an answer as far as how they treat the income. I do know that, North Dakota, you mentioned South Dakota depends more on the sales tax. North Dakota also has a lower income tax already, so that may factor in as far as where people may choose to live. This could be a way of attracting people more to our side for that reason as well. But yeah, I don't know if there's any subtractions that they allow. So if Ms. Bayers,
Ms. Bayers.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Joanna Bayers. I'm the Legislative Director for the Minnesota Department of Revenue. And Madam Chair, Senator Rust, that's a great question. We can go back and get that answer for you.
Madam Chair,
Senator Rust.
it wouldn't matter of my support for the bill, but I do think it should be a reminder to those other states that if we're going to do this, that they should consider doing it as well, and providing a benefit even if their citizens and are helping out in the Minnesota National Guard.
Sure. Madam Chair and Senator
Thank you.
Rust, I think
Senator-
that's a great point.
Senator Eken, any further comments, members, or questions? Well, Senator Eken, before we go to closing comments, I just want to acknowledge your acknowledgement that our tax climate does impact where people choose to live. And we do support our National Guard where they serve, no matter what side of the river they're on. And so we'll look forward to hearing this information from Ms. Bears as well. Because you did use the word reciprocity, and I didn't know, is that a formal reciprocity or informal, you'd like to see reciprocity in how we treat National Guard members who live in our neighboring states but serve in the Minnesota National Guard? That's the reciprocity you were mentioning?
Well, I think that there is, Madam Chair, I was just reading about that there is some mutual agreement about helping on both sides, in emergency situations. So I don't know if we could find that. I don't know if you have that available.
Senator Eken, so your reciprocity comment was about help and aid, not about taxation.
Exactly,
Thank
yes,
you.
Madam Chair.
That's
Yes.
just the clarification I needed. All right, well, to your closing comments.
Well, Madam Chair, I just want to thank you all. And again, I think that this is an important bill, just to treating people equally, really, I believe, because, you think about people working from Moorhead. There's lots of people in Moorhead that work over at Fargo, and they're not treated any differently than people who work in Minnesota as far as their income. And I think this would be just bringing things in line with treating people equally and the same, regardless of where they work. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Eken. The bill will be laid over for possible inclusion. And then, members, our third bill is Senator Weber, Senate File 1228. We'll let you get your folder open there, Senator Weber, and when you're ready, you can move your bill.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Yes, I'm pleased to move Senate File 1228. I also have an A2 author's amendment, which before we adopt, Madam Chair, I would like to make an additional oral amendment to it.
An oral amendment, just a moment. Members, do you all have the A2? Yes? All right, a 2-year oral amendment to the A2, Senator Weber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There was some miscommunication in terms of the amount of, or the extension, the sunset extension. And so in order to achieve an 8-year extension of the sunset, the following changes would need to be made. On line 1.19, the date of January 1st, 2030 would need to be changed to 2032. And then on lines 2.33, you would delete, the year 2029 and insert 2031.
Thank you, Senator Weber. All right. Is this your first stop, Senator Weber?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right, this is,
And I would move the A2 amendment.
thank you. Members,
As
this is the
amended.
author's amendment, the A2 as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The amended amendment is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Weber, 2-year bill is amended.
Certainly, Madam Chair and members, the transfer of the family farm to the next generation is one of the greatest challenges that exists in our family farm situation. And as we see values rise, whether it's with ag land, whether it's with the value of the equipment that's used, it continues to be a problem. The Beginning Farmers Program was developed a number of years ago in order to assist young farmers to get into the business. However, familial relationships have always been an exclusionary item for this program. Parents cannot sell to child, aunts and uncles, et cetera, and be able to use the beginning farmer credit. And so with this bill, this would extend this credit availability to the families in that scenario. And I will then, at this point, Madam Chair, turn the testifier's table over to those individuals who are on the list.
Thank you, Senator Weber. I have listed Caitlin Keck, Minnesota Farm Bureau Young Farmers and Ranchers Committee Chair. Ms. Keck, are you there? Welcome to the committee.
Hi, I'm here, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Caitlin Keck. I serve as chair of the Minnesota Farm Bureau Young Farmers and Ranchers Committee. I farm with my husband, Jason, in Steele County, southwest of Owatonna, Minnesota. We together have a small beef herd, a small direct-to-consumer produce business, and Jason works for his dad and uncle on their corn, soybean, and hog farm. On behalf of Minnesota Farm Bureau, I'd like to offer my support for SF 1228. This bill will expand the beginning farmer tax credit to additional new farmers across the state. Through this historic program, Minnesota has already been able to give a helping hand to farmers like me to start our family farm. In 2019, Jason and I rented an acreage from a landowner in western Steele and eastern Waseca County. Our land actually spans across 2 counties. And in 2020, through the Beginning Farmer Tax Credit Program, we were able to purchase that land from the landowner. We worked to finance it, half of it through FSA and the other half through our local ag lender at our bank. This credit has already proven to be really helpful for many young and beginning farmers across the state, and we think there is room to grow. This bill will continue to build on that investment by expanding the tax credit to make sure agriculture is accessible to others who want to farm, whether it's opening the tax credit to allow for the sale of agricultural assets to family members or increasing the credit for historically underserved communities. This credit offers tangible benefits to bring the next generation of farmers and ranchers into agriculture. We believe the changes made in today's legislation will not only help to continue to bring beginning farmers into agriculture while maintaining the integrity of the tax credit. Again, on behalf of the nearly 30,000 Minnesota Farm Bureau families across the state, I ask for your support of this bill and want to thank Senator Weber for his leadership on this issue. I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Keck. Any questions, comments, members for Ms. Keck? So I thought I saw a hand starting to pop up there, Senator Klein. Senator Klein.
Madam Chair, I do have a question, but are we done with all the testifiers? I wanted to wait until.
Well, we can ask, I think, as Ms. Keck is on, if it's specific to Ms. Keck.
It's not.
Oh, no. We'll be bringing up the other testifiers shortly. All right. Seeing none, Ms. Keck, but do stay on the line. You're not finished yet. You could get a question anyway. All right. Our next testifier is Molly Byron from Waseca, Minnesota. Molly, welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Thank you, Chair Nelson and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Molly Byron, and I'm working to take over my family farm in Waseca, Minnesota. On behalf of myself and Minnesota Farmers Union, I'm here to testify in strong support for Senator Weber's proposal to expand and improve access to the beginning farmer tax credit. I come from a multi-generational farm family where I'm part of the 6th generation to grow up on our farm. However, I didn't always know that I wanted to be involved with our family farm operation. After graduating high school, I left Minnesota to attend university in Chicago and ended up living there for 10 years. Then the pandemic hit, and I found myself back home on the farm. During this time, I reconnected with my southern Minnesota roots and ultimately decided to enroll in the Farm Business Management Program to learn how to manage my family farm while also utilizing the Farm Business Management Scholarship for beginning farmers. Now I'm in my 2nd year of the program and a member of the Farm Business Management Advisory Board. I'm also hoping to start our family's farm transition planning this year. Expanding the credit for sale of agricultural assets to family members like children and grandchildren makes sense and will help the generational farm transitions. Expanding the credit could potentially alleviate farmland from going on the market for sky-high prices because more would consider taking over a family farm operation. Increasing the credit for socially disadvantaged farmers will give emerging farmers an added leg up and help them get established in their operations. And finally, giving the department the funding they need to put together an online application will make it easier to access the credit. This credit only works if landowners are willing and there's more capacity at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture to administer this credit. That will help make sure the program works for participating landowners. Thank you for the opportunity to share my support and that of Minnesota Farmers Union and for your support of beginning farmers. I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Molly. And then any questions for Molly? Ms. Rest, Senator Rest.
Madam Chair, my question is actually for Senator Weber.
Okay,
Should
let's
I
hold
wait?
off until
I'll
we get
wait.
to the end of our testifiers.
Sure.
I just want to give our testifiers the opportunity to answer questions first. Our next testifier, Leif Akri, welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the Tax Committee for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Minnesota Beginning Tax Credit. My name is Leif Akri. I farm near Stephen, Minnesota, in the very northwest corner. I also serve as a director for Ag Country Farm Credit Services, where our customer base includes about 6,900 beginning farmers. I was an instructor in the Farm Operation and Management Program at Northland College in East Grand Forks for 24 winters, where we worked with young men and women transitioning into the farm business. Most of these young farmers were going back to their family farming operations. This is a very challenging time for beginning farmers to transition into a farming operation. With high costs of land, machinery, livestock, and facilities, as well as inflation and high input costs, it's difficult to compete with the more established producers. The Minnesota Beginning Farmer Tax Credit has been a very effective tool to give the beginning farmer an opportunity to build a relationship with a retiring farmer. A tax credit to the owner of that property, whether it's for a land sale, a land rental arrangement, or the sale of machinery to that beginning farmer, can be the opportunity that he needs. The problem with the beginning farmer tax credit as it currently stands is that the vast majority of beginning farmers work directly with family members such as parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles. These family members do not qualify for the credits as they're not eligible and do not qualify. For this reason, the program has been underutilized even though the funding has been allocated. Our son Brent and his family joined our farming operation 4 years ago after a 7-year career as a civil engineer. He always had a passion for farming and is now in the process of transitioning into our farm operation. However, Brent, like many beginning farmers, is unable to benefit from these tax credits because of the provisions of the program. Senator Weber's bill to expand eligibility to include family members would allow many young families to transition into farming and encourage a new generation of family farmers to succeed. These young farmers will have the opportunity to raise their families in our rural communities, attend local schools and churches, and support our rural towns. I fully support the provisions of Senator Weber's bill and would encourage passage. Thank you for the opportunity for me to share my story.
Thank you, Mr. Akri. Are there any other testifiers pro or against? Not seeing any, let's just open that up for if there's any other questions from the committee for the testifiers. Let's discuss those. And seeing none, then Senator Weber, before we go to your final comments, we'll give you those. I do have a question, and then we have some other members as well. Senator Rest, could you, well, actually, I'm going to ask Ms. Pollock to describe, well, first let me say, we all realize how important the family farmer tax credit is, and we're so glad that we were able to support this several years ago. And I understand the intent and the need to expand who is eligible. And my question is, under the proposal today, Senator Weber, change, the current law, I'd like to get clarification from Ms. Pollock on what the current law eligibility is, and under this proposal, who will be eligible? In other words, which buyers would be eligible buyers so that the credit then goes to the seller? In other words, we're trying to get more family farms to be able to continue, more family members. And on line 2.17 and 18, it talks about notwithstanding language regarding who is eligible, but I don't see where it would describe who is eligible. So I know that's in the legislation, it just might not be clear on the particular Senate file right here, but let's go to Ms. Pollock to discuss the notwithstanding piece, and really, how does this bill expand the ability for families to continue with, in purchasing a family farm? Ms. Pollock.
Madam Chair, members, yes, correct. So the notwithstanding language refers to another part of the current law on the beginning farmer program for the credit for sellers and renters of agricultural assets. So I guess to start off with, the definition of a beginning farmer is in part someone who is not and whose spouse is not a family member of the owner of the agricultural assets. And who's not and whose spouse is not a family member of a partner, member, shareholder, or trustee of the owner of the agricultural assets. And so what this notwithstanding language refers to is notwithstanding those parts of the definition for purposes of the sale of an agricultural asset, and there are some other components to the credit, so the rental and so forth, but only in this instance for the sale of an agricultural asset, the credit would be available to the sale for a family member who would be a spouse of the owner of the agricultural asset, or the member, or the beginning farmer, or their spouse, a partner, member, shareholder, and so forth of the owner of the agricultural asset. And as I believe some of the witnesses have testified to, this would be for the purposes of these exact situations where the credit was not available in family farm situations. And so it would be opening up the credit for those specific situations.
Thank you, thank you. Senator Weber, anything else to add to that?
No, the one item that I would mention, and one of the other clarifications that was made, I think, with the A2 amendment, is that we see a variety of ownership situations in today's farming operations, that being LLPs, LLCs, even trust arrangements, and so there's the part of the purpose of A2 as you go to in the middle of page 1 there, 1.10 to 1.14 is to make sure that those various types of ownership setups are recognized, and that those individuals are also able to participate in this.
Thank you, Senator Weber. Senator Rest, you have a comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of questions. I'm looking at the revenue estimate. Senator Weber, just to try and understand the magnitude and how much this credit is claimed right now. And it says that in 2020, which I guess is the latest year they really have information on, about $2.5 million in credits were claimed, and with this, that would well, it would. I'm not sure if it would double it. Trying to figure that out, but the indicating also that the total purchase amount in this situation averaged about $550 million per year. And I looked through the language, and I'm just curious about why a decision was made when we started this not to make it a refundable credit. And was that just because of the cost, or was there a policy reason not to make it a refundable credit? And have you considered in your bill, as it moves forward, that maybe now would be the time to make it that? I mean, I know it would cost more, but is that, would that even give a bigger incentive for these first-time farmers striking out on their own, even though they're part of a larger family that wants to keep and stay in farming? I'm just curious if you'd considered that, and if not, would you? And or maybe you're just going to leave it the way it is.
Thank you, Senator Russ. And I believe the credit goes to the person selling the asset. So I do want to clarify that, Senator Weber, but you may have some further clarification too. Senator Weber.
Madam Chair, Senator Rest, I think one of the reasons probably why it was not originally included as a refundable credit is that when you sell these assets and going back to the year when this was first established and even now, many times in the case of real estate, we have seen a substantial rise in values. And even in the case of farm equipment today, we are seeing extremely high values for used equipment, partly due to the supply chain issues that are prevalent even in the agricultural industry today. And when you sell a depreciable asset, you have to recapture all that depreciation. And so typically when a farmer sells their operation, be it land and or the machinery, either capital gains due to the sale of the land and or recaptured depreciation and possible capital gains today on the sale of equipment, basically eats up that credit fairly quickly. And so I think the thought is that the sale of those assets and the income tax that it creates would use that credit. And I'm not saying that there wouldn't be individuals that would receive a refundable or could use a refundable credit. I don't know how big of an item that would be, to be honest about it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you, Senator Weber. Senator Rust. Any further comments? Senator Klein.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Weber, for the bill. It's been helpful for me, new to this committee, to learn about these issues of real estate transfer for agriculture property through these various bills that you've brought. And I appreciate in the A2 the provision for socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers. I'm very grateful for that. I actually have a question just for my own edification. Is there a position, could we call somebody forward from the Department of Agriculture just to give their position on this bill?
Welcome to the committee. Introduce yourself for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you so much. For the record, my name is Andrea Vobble. I serve as Deputy Commissioner at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. Thank you so much, Senator Klein, for the question. We are very much in support of Senator Weber's bill. We very much appreciate the support that this committee has given this program in the past. It's been very successful, and what you've heard from the testifiers is in line with what we've heard from a number of folks, that making some of these changes would be very beneficial for the program and for agriculture in Minnesota in general.
Senator Klein, your question was answered.
Madam
Senator
Chair,
Weber, further comment.
I was just going to ask Ms. Vobble if she had any information as regards to Senator Rest's question. Do you know, are there many individuals who could use the refundability of this credit, or is it mostly used up to begin with?
Senator Weber, I'd have to double check, but I think it's mostly used up to begin with, but I can double check with our staff.
All right, thank you. Senator Dietz.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam Chair, sorry.
Yes.
Senator Weber, I remember when we did this, and I know there was a lot of discussion on helping minority and the socially disadvantaged farmers. I don't have any farms in my district, but I have a lot of farmers markets. And so I talked to a lot of the minority farmers and their trouble getting into owning land and building bigger farmers. And I noticed in the reports required of this bill, so not necessarily your bill, but just when we did the bill originally, the report, so it's actually section 6, and so this is, could we add, because what I understand in reading the report and all this, we really don't know how many socially disadvantaged farmers or ranchers have used this or attempted to use this, so could we maybe put in that report, and I don't know if it's possible, that we get some information to make sure that the bill is helping those farmers, and then does this amendment make it harder for them because it is all staying within the family, which I'm not necessarily opposed to, but I want to make sure that some of those disadvantaged, socially disadvantaged and farmers of color have access. And so if we can maybe come up with amendment as this moves forward to put that in the reporting requirements, that we get that information.
Senator Dietzig, that's a great question. And I'm going to have Ms. Pollack answer just a little bit to kind of further clarify that regarding how the socially disadvantaged purchaser, farmer, would impact the ability, and I appreciate looking at the report, how would the report need to be amended accordingly. But Ms. Pollack, if you could answer that question on how the inclusion of the socially disadvantaged farmer, how would that affect or not affect, and how is that related to the requirement of being a family member? I think that gets to the genesis of your question. Ms. Pollack.
Madam Chair and members, so the new language regarding the sale to a socially disadvantaged farmer or rancher, that's kind of a new category that would be, or a new provision that's added to the credit language. So if the sale were to a qualifying family member as defined earlier in the bill, who is also a socially disadvantaged farmer or renter, then I believe that the increased credit amount to the owner of the agricultural asset, that increased credit amount would apply.
And then Senator Dietzig.
Thank you, that's helpful. But then, again, as the bill moves forward, I'd like to know if we could add into that report how many socially disadvantaged farmers are applying and actually qualifying for the credit and able to purchase and get that credit. So I guess the qualifying purchaser doesn't get the credit, the sale gets credit.
Correct.
But how many of those are sold to, or how many socially disadvantaged farmers do we have participating and able to actually get farmland?
Yes. Senator Weber, do you have comment on that, or Ms. Vogel?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you so much for the question, Senator. We'd be happy to add that to the report in the future. I think in general, the agency is looking at how our programs in general are helping socially disadvantaged communities. So we'll take a look at that and be sure to add something in the report about what we can figure out.
Thank you, Ms. Vogel. And then Senator Weber, if it requires legislation, we'll ask you to pull that amendment together.
Correct, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further comments, members? Senator Weber, closing comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Again, I mentioned the fact that this is an issue in the transfer of our family farm assets to family farm members. I think this is a problem that, as I had served on the Mail-C board, we talk about often. And I think this is an element that can be used successfully to ensure that. And I thank you for having heard this bill.
Thank you, Senator Weber. The bill will be laid over as amended. Senator Rest, Senate File 2977. Modifications to eligible expenses for the education credit and definition of income. And Senator Rest, it looks like you have an A1 amendment. Welcome, Senator Rest. Would you like to move your bill?
I move the bill and move the A1 amendment.
Thank you, Senator Rest. Is this an author's amendment?
Yes.
Thank you. Members, let's vote on the author's amendment to get the bill in the shape the author prefers. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Those opposed? Senator Rest, your bill is amended. To your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In recent years, we have taken a look at the education credit from a number of different angles. I had a bill earlier this session that just changed the definition or the provision dealing with the income that it would be measured against. And we've been using household income, but increasingly for any number of credits and programs, we've been switching to AGI. And the bill I had previously just did that one change, didn't change eligible purchases, it did not change the eligible income, just, not the income, the cap on the income, which currently and has been for years at $33,000, didn't make that change there. And I asked Ms. Pollock I didn't have that revenue estimate in front of me. The revenue estimate on this bill would take the benefit to Minnesota parents up to almost $30 million a year. And I asked Ms. Pollock if she would look up the estimate on the other bill so that we would have some kind of contrast. If you only did AGI and nothing else, as opposed to the changes that are made in this bill, what would be the additional benefit? And I wonder if you would call on her to.
Yes, Mr. Wilms, I think, has that information. Mr. Wilms.
Thank you. Excuse me, Madam Chair and Senator Rest. So the bill that was heard earlier was Senate File 3572. And the revenue estimate for that, as you indicated, the policy change was simply changing the definition to FAGI from household income. And the general fund effects on net for that were approximately $1 million annually each year. So that represents just the definitional change.
Thank you.
Senator Rest.
Appreciate that. So you can see that by modifying the amount of or the level of income that would be eligible to take this credit, there would be a significant benefit. Secondly, and I know I don't have, Mr. Wilms also has this information, we have seen over the years, since we haven't changed that 33,000 limit and haven't increased it in terms of eligibility for Minnesota families, we have seen a sharp decrease in the number of families that use the credit. And in the graph that Mr. Wilms has showed me previously, there were, as I indicated, a really dramatic drop-off in the number of families, even in the last few years, that made use of that credit. So I'm hoping that this is the year, and I know, Madam Chair, this is something, even when you were the chair of the Education Committee, that you turned a sharp eye on this provision, and I hope I'm pleased that Senator Chamberlain, now the chair of it, signed on to the bill as a co-author. But I do think that now is the time because of the added expenses that parents have undertaken during the pandemic, the purchases that they make by the provisions of the statute. You can't just go out and buy something, and if your kid uses it, every other week, that doesn't qualify here. It has to be used primarily for the benefit of the young person that lives in your home. It cannot be used, or you can't take the credit if you purchase the item and its primary use is for a business use in the home. That is not eligible. Also, we not only made the change in that number from 33,000 to, let's see, how, to 70,000. We also allowed for an expansion of qualified expenses to include internet services, because we know that our students are spending a lot of time on online learning, and that parents, in order to really provide that level of availability, it's sometimes it's a struggle to do that. And so the maximum number of computer expenses itself is increased from 200 to 300, and that also includes charges for internet services. The revenue estimate also indicates that nearly 40,000 more families, more parents, if we made this change, would be eligible. And of course, it remains progressive in that there is a phase out, and that remains in place as well. The amendment that we added is the same one we added in the other bill, and it just recognizes that some people are not calendar year taxpayers, they're fiscal year taxpayers, and we had to accommodate them to make sure that they are eligible for the credit. So, Madam Chair, this is, I think this is the year. I hope that the committee will agree, and have a couple of testifiers that I think will be supportive and of this change and how it's going to affect Minnesota families.
I thank you,
Madam
Senator
Chair.
Rest. I might just mention a couple comments before the testifiers testify, because they may address these as they go forward. I do want to thank you for bringing this a much-needed update. And I noted the inclusion of online or of internet computers, so essential. But I do note that we continue, at least currently, and maybe this is something to consider further refining, that the expenses include tutoring fees, textbooks, and other instructional materials. Clearly, our children are facing 2 years, really, of a delayed learning loss. But, you know, much as we did in higher ed, where we amended the term textbooks to include online instruction. And I can see that this would be incredibly important to include not just the literal textbooks, but if there are course fees or online fees for online learning, not just the hardware and the technology to get to it, but also that those subscriptions to online learning, that type of thing. I don't know of any names offhand that I would not just specify one, but some are free, like the Khan Academy, but some there's a fee. And so I'd like you to consider and get your insight on that. And we'll turn it over to your testifiers, and this may be part of their testimony. I'm not sure. Senator Rest.
Respond to that. Yes, I think that many families, even as their children are receiving online instruction from their schools, also to keep their children up to date with one-on-one instruction, or with one-on-one tutoring, or one with a group of 2 or 3 students, that kind of tutoring has made an enormous difference for the children and their families, and and that continues even as the children go back to classroom instruction. I think that kind of tutoring, keeping in mind the education credit may not be used for tuition to private schools. This is not, that's a whole different discussion, and that's not the one that we're having here. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you, Senator Rest. And we'll go to your testifiers who might further elaborate on the use of the online instruction as well. And I'm particularly interested if there are fees involved that we might need to make eligible in this bill. Welcome to the committee, Mr. Norris. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Great. Thank you, Chair Nelson and members of the committee. My name is Matt Norris, and I'm the Policy Director and Director of Minnesota After School Advance at Youth Prize. Updating the income limit for the K-12 education tax credit, as Senate File 2977 proposes, is urgently needed. As you've heard me say before, the credit for the income limit for the maximum credit has not changed since 1997. That's a quarter century. But the urgent need doesn't just stem from the passage of time. It also comes from the educational impacts of the pandemic. A recent report from McKinsey & Company described the emerging K-shaped recovery from the pandemic in the education space. Our more affluent students who come from families that can afford academic supports like tutoring are largely on track to make up for the learning loss that occurred during the pandemic by the end of this school year. In contrast, our lower income learners are falling farther behind because they don't have the same access to those academic supports. Similarly, the National Science Foundation released a report highlighting that there could be an impact on the number and diversity of students going into the STEM field. Because again, with the learning loss that occurred during the pandemic, fewer students have had access to the supports that are needed to maintain the academic rigor to pursue a career in the STEM field. We can't let these trends continue unchecked. Simply put, this tax credit is educational first aid for many families. It can be deployed immediately and be targeted at the specific needs of each individual student. Last year alone, our Minnesota After School Advance program helped families use this tax credit to pay for 18,000 hours of tutoring. We've served families in over 200 cities across the state with access to tutoring, computers, and other supports through this tax credit since the pandemic began. And you'll have the opportunity to hear from one in just a moment. But with wages rising recently, it means fewer and fewer families are eligible for this educational first aid under these outdated income guidelines. It's great that wages have been rising modestly, but inflation has caused the price of everything else, like gas and groceries, to go up even faster. This means that even if mom or dad is bringing home a little bit more in their paycheck, they still don't have the money to pay for tutoring or to buy a computer for their student. For example, I recently met with a community leader from Worthington. She was thrilled to hear about this tax credit until I told her about the income limit. She said most of the workers at the JBS meat processing plant there make just over $33,500, but they certainly can't afford tutoring for their kids. We'd like to thank Senator Rest for bringing this bill forward and the strong bipartisan group of senators, including Senators Nelson, Chamberlain, Klein, and Dietzick, who have authored or co-authored legislation supporting these important updates. This bill is desperately needed and has bipartisan support. We've got the money. There's no reason to wait one more year to solve a problem 25 years in the making and get educational first aid to Minnesota students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Norris. That term is correct, educational first aid. And as you can see, as you noted, the tax committee is very concerned about that as well. Thank you. Next, we have Melissa Bronat, parent from Stillwater, and I believe she's on Zoom. Ms. Bronat, welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself for the record and continue.
Hi, I'm Melissa Bernardi. I have 2 children. And at first I want to say good morning and thank you everyone for inviting me. And so I am here because I have 2 children and I have been in the program now with Minnesota Youth Advance this is my 2nd year, and it has been very beneficial to my children. I don't have a lot of money, and we have participated in the driver's ed program last year. We were able to get a computer. What was the other thing? We did voice lessons, and this year it has been a great blessing for my youngest daughter. She is in the Mathnasium tutoring class, and it has been amazing. She has special learning problems in math, and she has been able to get through geometry in her 10th grade year, which I can't remember that stuff, and it wasn't my strong suit. Algebra was better, but it has just been a really great thing for her. It has made her confident. She's getting, I think it's like a B+ in that class, and she has spent many hours in when she was younger, trying to just catch up in math. She was a grade and a half behind. And so this tutoring program is amazing because I think it just builds the self-confidence for her and to be able to know herself as a person. And it's really hard for me. I would never, ever be able to afford a program at this level of expense. It's not cheap. And so, like, again, I said that I have the 18-year-old now, and she did the driver's ed, and that was very helpful for her. Let's see. I think the program is very great. It could really benefit a lot of people. Like my daughter, I was just talking to her, and she said that there are many people that are low income like us that struggle and may never get the opportunity to do something like they are able to, which I think is very important. It gives these kids in our further future with some of the low income people to be able to do more and achieve more and feel more confident being that they're in the situation, just to be able to know that there are these programs and the help and the expense for the parents. It's a wonderful thing. I don't really have much else to say except for that I'm very grateful for the program. I wish I would have heard about it many years ago. I just recently heard about it in the past couple of years because my other daughter could have used so many programs as well. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ms. Bernate. What an impactful testimony. And really just, it shows the power of parents, quite frankly, that you were able to get involved and help your kids get involved in some of this so essential tutoring. And really just, it's so remarkable to hear of a student who was 1.5 to 2 years behind in math, who is now getting high grades in 10th grade geometry. That's just a real metric of success. And I want to thank you for being here today and for sharing your testimony. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And next on the list, we have Anna Odegaard with the Minnesota Asset Building Coalition. Ms. Odegaard, welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, thank you. My name is Anna Odegaard, and I'm the director of the Minnesota Asset Building Coalition. For those of you who don't know, we are a statewide coalition of nonprofit organizations supporting asset building opportunities for low-income individuals and families. About half of our member organizations serve the metro area and about half serve greater Minnesota. We know that the opportunity to work, save, and invest in a brighter future creates long-term financial security and independence, and we want to make sure those opportunities are available to every family in Minnesota. The Minnesota Asset Building Coalition supports updating the income limit for the K-12 education tax credit to make the credit available to more families like the mom we just heard from, who want to invest in their children's learning but need a little help to make it affordable. I was glad the previous testifier mentioned driver's ed. That was what I was going to talk about. I think that's one eligible expense that people don't always think of with the K-12 education tax credit, but it is critical for setting young people on a path to financial independence. In Minnesota, if you're under 18, the Department of Public Safety requires you to complete classroom and behind the wheel driver's education classes in order to qualify for your provisional driver's license. The cost for teens to take driver's ed through St. Paul Public Schools, I live in St. Paul, is $375. And it's more than that at some of the private schools. And I know this because I have a 15-year-old son and we've been looking into it for my son, Robin. The K-12 education tax credit can help offset this cost for families for whom that amount might be a hardship. Teens with a driver's license have much broader employment opportunities, enabling them to gain work experience and even save money for higher education if that's their goal. MABC member organizations in greater Minnesota especially recognize that a driver's license is critical for employment and is therefore an asset in and of itself. More than half the families claiming the K-12 education credit are outside the 7-county metro area, which is one reason our statewide coalition has made supporting this tax credit a priority. Of course, driver's ed is just one example of an educational expense that qualifies for the K through 12 credit. The educational gaps between low-income students and their more affluent peers is one of this state's most significant challenges. And this credit is an important tool to make many enhanced learning opportunities affordable for low-income students. Thank you so much to the committee for your work on behalf of all Minnesotans. I hope that updating the income threshold for the K through 12 education tax credit will be part of your final bill.
Thank you, Ms. Odegaard. Members, any comments for the testifiers? Questions? Senator Rest, I have one question for you before we go to your final comments then. Certainly much needed to increase the income limit for eligibility on this education tax credit and also the uses, which you've done here. My question is, did you also update the phase-out amount? Senator Rest.
I'm going to ask Ms. Pollack or Mr. Wilms to answer that, but we did include going forward on that amount that it would be responsive to inflation. So I'm not sure, again, how those two things
We'll go
work
to
together.
Mr. Wilms then. Thank you, Senator Rest. Mr. Wilms.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. The bill before you increases the threshold that the credit begins to phase out at, but it doesn't change the slope of the phase out, so that remains the same under the bill. And then as Senator Rest indicates, it doesn't increase with inflation.
And then that would be that.
Senator Rest.
For each, thank you, Madam Chair, for one child, it's at one point, and then for more children, the credit is also affected, and then the phase out. And then, Madam Chair, have another comment to make, if I may.
Oh, yes, one more before we go to that one, just a moment.
we have
Senator Rest, one moment, please. Before that comment, Mr. Wilms, before we leave the phase-out piece, it increased the threshold, but the slope stayed the same. What is the new threshold for the phase-out for both, one child, two children? Do you happen to have that? You can get back to me if you do not.
Madam Chair and committee members, so the threshold at which it begins to phase out is the same. Well, it's 70,000, but then it increases in terms of the maximum credit that's allowed. So basically, if you have more children qualifying, the slope where that ultimately reaches zero is I guess higher. So it's really dependent, in short, on the number of children that qualify as to where the ultimate phase out ends.
Thank you. We'll follow up on that just a little bit later, then delve into that more. Senator Rest.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In other education related bills that I've been looking at, not some of them are coming to this committee or were referred here, others not. There's been an intentional look at whose benefit it is to be for. And in other bills, the term minor child has come up as where the benefit would be. Others, and I hope that we'll have a chance to do that here. It would also apply to pre-K children. So if the parent is sitting there with a 5-year-old in kindergarten, and we call this the K through 12, but maybe we should take a look at that too, and I'm going to look at and ask the department to perhaps re-estimate this just for our information, where it would include those that are attending pre-K programs. A number of us have, and it's bipartisan, committed to pre-K education in Minnesota and how beneficial that would be. And it occurs to me that here's the 4-year-old in the pre-K classroom, and then next door, her 5-year-old sister or brother, and the expenses incurred on behalf of the older child are eligible but not for the student and the child enrolled in, you know, certified, whatever the word would be, pre-K program. So I hope that maybe we can take a look at that too, and I'll provide that information to you when I get it from the department.
Thank you, Senator Rest. That's very insightful. We have had bills before to increase the K-12 credit to pre-K as well. So maybe they have some of those estimates. But thank you for the good bill, Senator Rest, the thoughtful, really updating this bill for today and the needs therein. This bill will be laid over for possible inclusion. Thank you, as amended. Members, we've reached the end of today's meeting agenda, but I do want to kind of just give you a heads up as we head into next week. It's a busy week as we head towards spring break. And so I just want you to know that our next hearing will be April 5th, 2022. And we will be hearing the omnibus education bill that day, of next week, April 5th. The amendment, the delete all amendment will post then on April 4th. April 5th, we'll hear the bill, and then on April 6th, we'll mark up the bill. So just to kind of give you a heads up on the bill. Senator Chamberlain.
I believe you meant your tax bill, right? Because
Yes.
the education, okay, you said education.
Oh,
so-
no, I'm sorry. Oh, Senator
We'll have it
Chamberlain.
ready Monday, but thank you.
Thank you. I think I had that education tax credit on my mind. You bet. We're talking about the tax bill. Yeah, right. We don't want to do that education bill. All right. Thanks so much, members. Committee is adjourned.